For the next few minutes, let's go on a creative adventure as we color in this magical wizard cat using alcohol markers. I spent over 3 hours coloring this in, but in this video, I'll speed it up for you so that you can get a solid overview of the entire process in just a few minutes. Hi, I'm Tania, and if you want to color in this wizard cat with me, you can! Check out the link below this video where you can get access to the real-time coloring videos, which includes detailed narration of my entire process of coloring in this cat, along with a printable line art and color swatches for both Copic and Ohuhu. I actually colored this in twice, first using Copic markers on Neenah cardstock, and then again using Ohuhu markers on Express-It blending card. As you can see, the results are nearly identical, even though I use different alcohol marker brands and different papers. So let's start coloring! I always like to start with the eyes because they anchor the entire artwork. For the eyes, I used 6 blue colors to create a gradient in the cat's irises, going from dark in the middle to lighter at the tops and bottoms. This makes the eyes look shiny and rounded. Whenever you're coloring in eyes, always look for ways to create a gradient to make the eyes look more appealing. Adding catch lights is also a fun idea. That's what these little stars are inside the eyes. It's easiest to add them with a colored pencil, paint pen, or gel pen after you've colored in the irises with alcohol markers. With the eyes finished, it's time to start coloring in the rest of the cat's face. I want the cat's fur to be white, but we can't just leave it plain white. We need to create some kind of shading to make it look three-dimensional. Rather than using boring grays for shadows, I use a range of blues and blue-violets, along with a colorless blender, to blend the shadows into the white of the paper. I chose blue for the shadows because I want this cat to have a mysterious, magical quality, and the blue shadows help create a sense of otherworldly whimsy. The next step is coloring in the jewels in the cat's forehead. These jewels are really tiny, so I'm just using the very tip of the brush nib and touching it very quickly and lightly onto the paper. I color in the jewels using a series of greens, pinks, and yellow-oranges. Adding a subtle blue shadow underneath the jewels really helps them stand out and look more three-dimensional. To make them look shiny and reflective, I use a white Posca paint pen to add tiny dots and lines. It's the perfect finishing touch for these cute little jewels. Moving on to the rest of the cat's body, I use the same fur colors that I used on the face to color in the cat's paws, legs, tail, and outer ears. I blend from dark to light, because I have a pretty good idea of where I want the shadows to be. If you're not sure where you want the shadows to be, or how dark you want to make them, then it's a good idea to start out with your light colors first, and then slowly blend to your darker colors. Next, I color the inside of the cat's ears, using a brighter blue for the tufts of ear hair, and then using some muted violets to create the inner shadows. Now here comes one of the trickiest parts of coloring in this wizard cat, the hat. It's tricky because we want to create 2 gradients. The first gradient goes from dark to light, darker at the edges and lighter towards the center of the hat. We'll start by using these violet colors to create an underpainting that will help define our shadows and establish our values. Then I color on top of the underpainting with my vibrant colors, going from red-violet at the edges to a light pink towards the center of the hat. The second gradient I want to create will go from orange at the top of the hat and blend gradually into the pinker hues at the bottom, creating a gorgeous color shift. I want the orange hues to match the values of the pink hues so that the lights and shadows are consistent, so I blend from darker orange at the edges of the hat to a light yellow towards the center. Now we'll do a similar thing for the brim of the hat, only this time we'll be going from red and orange at the bottom of the brim to yellow at the center and pink and magenta at the top. Creating all these gradients is really tricky, but the effect is incredibly eye-catching. It's much more dynamic to blend from one hue to another hue than it is to blend from light to dark within the same color family. And then, when you're trying to incorporate values, that is, highlights and shadows, it adds another layer of complexity. But it's totally worth it to go the extra mile and do this kind of blending because it can really level up your entire artwork. Coloring in the whole hat takes up 50 minutes of video in my coloring course, and it's one of my favorite parts, because the hat is such a strong focal point of this artwork, resting as it is right on top of the cat's head. So it's one of the places where your eyes go first when you look at this artwork. If you're finding this video to be helpful, please tap the like button. And subscribe to my channel to see more of my art videos where I share tips, techniques, and tutorials. To color in the underside of the hat, we're once again using a violet color to create an underpainting, and then we go over it with our more vibrant colors. Then it's time to color in the jeweled band at the top of the hat. This detailed band ties the whole hat together, and it also visually connects the hat with the jewels in the cat's face, because the details are a similar size and they use similar colors. If you want to create a cohesive artwork, then it can help to limit your color palette. Instead of using every color of the rainbow, choose a few dominant colors and repeat them throughout the artwork. You'll notice that this is what I do throughout the cat's entire outfit. The main colors are warm colors: red violets, pinks, reds, and oranges, with touches of yellow here and there. I mostly use the same marker colors for the entire outfit to help tie it all together. But here and there, I add some subtle cool colors to the outfit, like the green hat band and these little blue elbow patches. Earlier, I showed you the process of underpainting to create shadows. Now let me show you the process of overpainting, which we're going to do to create shadows on the insides of the cat's sleeves. We color in the sleeves as normal using bright colors, and then we use a very muted yellow-green earthy color right on top of those vibrant colors. Notice how it immediately dulls the vividness of the hues underneath, while still allowing those colors to show through. This is definitely one of the cool things about using alcohol markers. Their transparency allows you to layer them to create different effects. Another one of my favorite details in this artwork is the flowing bottom edge of the cat's shirt. To make it look 3D, I created undulating highlights and shadows using yellows and yellow-oranges along the very bottom, and then matching those highlights and shadows using pink and magenta colors just above it. It's kind of subtle compared to all the detail in this artwork, but I really like the effect it creates. To color in the red part of the cat's shirt, I actually used the same 4 colors that I used for the underside of the hat. Remember what I said about repeating the same colors throughout the artwork to create a sense of cohesiveness? This is exactly what I mean. With the cat entirely colored in, it's time to move on to the wand. My goal is to make everything look bright and shiny and reflective, starting with a big golden star at the top of the wand. This magical wand has a lot of small details, so I always recommend using a feather-light touch with the very tip of your brush nib for coloring in these tiny spaces. To make sparkly jewels, I like to create a gradient that's darker at the top and gets lighter towards the bottom, which is what I'm doing for all these circular and oval shapes. And then, as a finishing touch, I go in with my white Posca paint pen and add tiny little dots, which really makes the jewels pop. Then it's time to color in the rest of the wand. This part is easy because I'm just using the same 3 colors and blending them to create a sense of dimension to make this wand look 3D. Then I use a range of 4 green colors to color in the vine that's wrapped around the wand along with the leaves and swirls. I chose very cool greens for this vine because I wanted it to contrast with all the warm colors in the cat's outfit. By choosing cool greens instead of warm greens, the vine pops out a bit more. After coloring in the wand, it's time to color in the background. The stars are pretty easy and straightforward. I color them in with yellows and yellow-orange, and then I move on to the blue circle behind the cat. Instead of coloring in the circle with a solid blue, I decide to create some variation. So I start by drawing in a bunch of little circles of varying sizes. Some circles are a bit bigger, and some are tiny, and many are somewhere in between. Then after I draw in the circles, I color around them, using a darker blue marker, being extra careful when I color right next to the wizard cat and the stars. I fill in the whole background circle with this blue color, which ties the whole artwork together. Notice how the cool blue background contrasts against all the warm colors in the cat's outfit, creating a visual balance. Before we added this blue background, the overall color scheme of this artwork was way too warm, to the point where those dominant warm colors were overpowering. So by adding this blue background, we bring balance back to the artwork. The blue background also ties in with the blues in the cat's eyes. To add even more variation to the background, I use a colorless blender to lighten some of the small circles. And then I use a white colored pencil to brighten up some circles even more. As a finishing touch, I use a white Posca paint pen to add tiny opaque dots. These extra steps add even more variety to the circles in the background, creating a sense of depth and distance, as if these circles are little stars, with some being closer and brighter and others being farther away. As a final step, I color in the shadow underneath the cat using a solid black. And now we're done! I hope you enjoyed watching this adorable wizard cat come to life! If you love whimsical art, check out this video where you can see how I colored in this super cute owl. See you there!